Hello, everybody. Jonathan Pulley here with West Coast Weather. Today is September 8th, and in this video, I'm just going to do the general forecast for the West Coast of North America. I'm going to talk about the nice weather we're having for much of the West Coast right now, and talk about maybe our potential first fall storm of the season. It's still a ways out, but we'll look at the possibilities and see how things may turn out. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. We are now looking at the geocolor goes west satellite imagery. Here's Washington, Oregon, California. Here's Mexico down here. Alaska and Canada is all the way up here. Pretty inactive weather right now for the West Coast. Generally really sunny, some fog along the California coast, which is very common for the Bay Area especially. There's some fog over the Puget Sound over in Washington, down the Strait of Juan de Fuca. And then there's some marine stratus out off the coast that looks pretty cool on satellite. And then we got Hurricane Hova over here. Hope that I'm pronouncing that right. Not a major hurricane anymore, but is still packing 100-mile-per-hour winds and gusts that are even higher than that. It previously was a Cat 5 hurricane a day or two ago. It looked very, very cool on satellite. So it's still a powerful hurricane, mainly just going to affect the fish in the water, mix them up a bit, and maybe draw some moisture in the California and the Southwest. But other than that, it's going to be not be very impactful for anybody other than the marine life. Now going over the weather models, we can look at what the upper level pattern will look like for this weekend, early next week. This is the European high-res model. Going into this weekend, we're going to have a really nice weekend, ridging over the area, generally nice weather. Ridging, troughing offshore, generally storminess over here. This starts to move towards the area on Sunday, but watch as it hardly clips Washington or Oregon. A weak front may move through Washington, southern BC, but generally that's going to fall apart as it moves ashore. Places up north and central and northern British Columbia are going to get impacted more with that. And then as we go farther into the beginning of next week, some more very, very little troughing over the area, but still pretty nice weather. And as we go into the middle of next week, the European brings a ridge over the area and warms us up a bit. And going into later next week, there's no sort of confidence at this range, so this is purely just for fun to look at. Ridging kind of holds on a bit, and then there you go, the troughing starts to come in again. In the if we head over to the GFS, it's showing something relatively similar to that as we go out into next week. General troughing, ridging over the area, that's very in very good agreement to the European model, which is to be expected at such a short range. Going into Sunday, that trough moves just offshore, bringing a weak front into the Washington State area, mainly west of the Cascades. Some light showers will be expected with that. Troughing remains a bit. There's a little bit of troughing still remaining on the GFS as we go in the early next week, a little more than the European model had. As we go into mid to late week, though, and the ridging pops up also on the GFS in a slightly different placement, but still would bring nicer weather into the area for a bit. And as we head into the end of the week, the GFS continues some more ridging over the area, so more nice weather. But watch as the trough moves in, very similar to the European model at this range. Though it's a deeper trough, stronger, probably would bring in more precipitation and cooler temps. And the GFS goes out an extra over 100 hours out, so we can look even farther into the future than the European model. Troughing kind of hangs over the West Coast, generally like over Idaho, Oregon, and Washington, also going into Nevada and California. That trough swings out of the area. Another weak trough comes in before that, and then even more troughing off the coast. That would bring more Pacific moisture into the area, and that would be like kind of one of our first typical fall storm systems. But that's 16 days out. There's not really any confidence at that point. It's kind of what we call fantasy land because it's really just in our imaginations, the model's imagination. So now let's look at what kind of precipitation that we may expect for this weekend, the early next week. Today, really dry for everywhere along the coast, maybe some isolated showers over near Idaho and western Montana, but really nothing significant. And as we're going into Saturday, maybe a few isolated showers again, but not really expecting that much from those. And as we head into Sunday, there's that front that I was talking about that's going to move towards southern British Columbia and western Washington. Watch though as it dies off right as it comes in. Hardly anything moves into the interior of western Washington, mainly coastal areas getting some sprinkles. And then as we head off into Monday and Tuesday, dry again, really for everybody. A really weak system tries to move in on Tuesday morning / afternoon. Once again, it looks even weaker than the last front that didn't really make any headway into the interior. Yeah, really dry. Which is kind of typical for September. We're still coming out of summer, and so we have plenty of dry days usually in September. As we start getting into later in September, though, we usually start increasing our rain chances and our first storm chances. So as we continue into later next week, some systems keep moving up into British Columbia, and there's also Hurricane Lee all the way down here. So that'll be an interesting thing for the East Coast to worry about. And really, even through next weekend, according to the European model, at least, hardly any rain. Then it starts bringing in some more systems at the very end of the range, but that's 7+ days out, so we don't really need to worry about that. So, going over to some of the graphics from the forecast office, Medford, Oregon. They have some nice graphics out today with talking about seasonal temperatures across Northern California and Southern Oregon through the weekend. Maybe some smoke within the vicinities of the wildfires that are still going on down there. Thankfully, not as much as the previous month had. But occasional light to moderate smoke accumulation is possible in these areas through the weekend. Consider extra caution while outdoors in these areas. And then going over to the National Weather Service Spokane, Washington, they also have a really nice graphic out talking about the nice, calm, and quiet weather that we're having. Maybe a few isolated showers, like I mentioned, and highs in the 70s and low 80s, not that bad. Cooling down compared to some of the summer temperatures that we were getting out there. So that's really nice. Now let's look at the European Mall's depiction of the temperatures this weekend into early next week. Today, high temperatures over the area, 80s for eastern Washington, generally 70s and 80s over much of Oregon. Western Washington in the 60s to mid 70s. So really nice weather, actually. The central valleys of California, though, a little hot in the 90s and maybe approaching 100 in some of the southern locations. Going through Sunday and Saturday, still maybe it warms up a little bit more in eastern Washington, but still 80s and 70s for much of Washington, Oregon, 90s for parts of California. Coastal areas will be in the 70s and even 60s as the water cools them down quite a bit. And going in the Sunday and Monday, really the same thing. 80s, 90s possible in California, 70s and 60s along the coastal areas and up in the mountains. So really, really nice weather for September. So get out there and enjoy the sun and enjoy the nice weather coming up. Well, that's really it for this video. Just go out there and enjoy the nice weather as we have it, because as we go into the winter and fall months, more clouds, more rain, more storminess is going to start coming in, and we're not going to have as much sunny days, maybe unless you live in like Southern California. But up north, we start getting relatively cloudy as we head into late September and October, especially going into November. So I'll keep watching out for potential or first fall storm of the season. Really, that anything like that's looking like a week out or more. So there's plenty of time to watch that. So I hope that everybody's had a great week, and I hope that everybody enjoys the weekend. If you really like this video, please hit that like button and subscribe, and also hit that notification bell down below so you don't miss out on any new videos I upload. And with that, God bless, take care, and I'll see you in the next video.